11 heads, which would mean I had 9 tails. So my relative frequency is different than what my probability is. I know that my probability is, for flipping heads, 1 out of 2. In this case, flipping heads turned out to be 11 out of 20. Again, my probability for flipping tails is 1 out of 2. There's 1 favorable out of 2 options. And in this case, it turned out to be 9 out of 20. We can use relative frequencies to help us make decisions about what we can't see. So in this example, we have a bag of colored chips. You are randomly selecting a chip from the bag and replacing it each time. The table shows the number of times you select each color. So we have red was 24, blue 12, green 15, and yellow 9. And so our first question, it says if there are 20 chips in the bag, can you use the table to find the exact number of each color in the bag? Explain. Well, we can't find the exact number, but we can make some decisions about what we think there might be more or less of. So I would predict that there's more red than yellow based on the information in the table, and there might be close to the same amount of blues and greens. But I haven't looked in the bag yet, so I'm just making some predictions based on this relative frequency. Question B, it says you randomly select a chip from the bag and replace it. You do this 50 times, then 100 times, and you calculate the relative frequencies after each experiment. Which experiment do you think gives a better approximation of the exact number of each color in the bag? Explain. Well, in this case, doing it 100 times would give us a better approximation because as you increase the number of trials in your experiment, you will have more accurate information. All right, again, our essential question is how can we use relative frequencies to find probabilities? Remember, relative frequency of an event is the fraction or percent of the time the event occurs. So if you think back to that example, the coin flipping, if you flip a coin 20 times, if you flip heads 11 times, the relative frequency of flipping heads is 11 out of 20 or 55%. One of the key ideas that you need to know for this lesson is the idea of experimental probability. Probability that is based on repeated trials of an experiment is called experimental probability. So this means you are actually doing something and reporting the probability of your experiment. We represent probability with that capital P and then the event, and then we take the number of times the event occurs over the total number of trials. So down here, here's an example. The bar graph shows the results of rolling a number cube 50 times. What is the experimental probability of rolling an odd number? So when we look at this, it shows that 10 times 1 was rolled, 8 times 3 was rolled, and there were 11 times that 5 was rolled. So an odd number was rolled 29 times in a total of 50 rolls. So the probability, the experimental probability of this happening, rolling an odd number, is 29 out of 50, or 58 hundredths, or 58%. That's actually what happened. Now, this is a little different because we're actually looking at data from an experiment. The other type of probability that we're going to talk about is theoretical probability. And this is when all possible outcomes are equally likely. The theoretical of an event is the ratio of number of favorable outcomes to the number of possible outcomes. So if we think back to our example on the previous screen, rolling an odd number, we know that on a regular number cube, there are 3 out of 6 odd numbers. So the theoretical probability of rolling an odd number is 1/2. But that didn't happen in our experiment. It showed that 29 out of 50 times in the experiment, it was odd. So theoretical probability is looking at what in theory we think would happen. And experimental probability is when we actually do that experiment. So finding theoretical probability. So in this example, it says you randomly choose one of the letters shown in the word explore. What is the theoretical probability of choosing a vowel? Well, there are 3 vowels, 1, 2, 3. And there are 7 total letters. So the probability of choosing a vowel is 3 out of 7, or about 43%. That's what we think or expect to happen in this experiment. So when we're using theoretical probability, we can do some calculations to help us. So the theoretical probability of winning a bobblehead when spinning a prize wheel, so imagine a prize wheel, is 1/6. The wheel has 3 bobblehead sections. How many sections are on the wheel? So it has to have more than just 3 sections, because if 3 were bobblehead sections and that's all there was, then you have a 100% chance. But we know we only have 1/6. So we look at the probability of the event, spinning the bobblehead. So we take the number of bobblehead sections out of the total number of sections. So we use that probability. If the probability is 1/6, then we're going to write a proportion to solve for S, the total number of sections. So in this case, we would use cross products property and figure out that there are 18 sections if your probability is 1/6, where there are 3 bobblehead sections. When we talk about experimental and theoretical probability, we want to do some comparing. So this bar graph shows the results of rolling a number cube 300 times. What is the experimental probability of rolling an odd number? Again, we know in theory that you have 1/2 chance to roll odd or 1/2 chance to roll even on a regular number cube. But when you look at the information from this event, there were 147 times where an odd was rolled out of 300. When we simplify that, that becomes 49 hundredths, or 49%. That's pretty close. Like if we compare that to the theoretical probability of rolling an odd number, which is 50%, this experiment came very close to that theoretical probability. One thing to note, letter C here, it says compare the experimental probability in part A to the experimental probability in example 1. So this was example 1, where we were rolling, and out of 50 rolls, 29 were odd. That was about 58%. Now when we rolled 300 times, we end up with this 49%. And so what we need to note is as the number of trials increased from 50 to 300, the experimental probability decreased from 58% to 49%. So it became closer to the theoretical probability. And that's what should happen. If you are increasing your trials, your experimental probability should start to get close to your theoretical probability. Here's just another example to look at, comparing the results from an actual experiment. So rolling 2 number cubes over here. So this bar graph shows all of the sums that were rolled when rolling 2 number cubes in an actual experiment. And then over here, this table shows the possible combinations for rolling 2 number cubes. And so I'm just going to focus on a couple of these. So if we look at on our experimental probability, it shows right here that 6 was rolled the most frequently. That was the most frequent sum. And so when I look at my possibilities over here, I'm going to just check out how many different ways are there to roll 6. So I can see here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So out of 36 possibilities, there are 5 ways to roll a 6. So that's pretty good. But if I look on my chart a little further, I can see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 36 ways to roll a 7. Now that doesn't mean that I'm always going to roll 7 most often, as you can see in this chart. Okay. So when we are thinking about probability, we have to be thinking about whether we're talking about an actual experiment, what really happened, or are we talking about the theoretical probability in a situation where all the outcomes are equally likely. This is a fun project. If you have a paper cup at home or even a plastic cup would work. Toss a paper cup 100 times and record your results and see, do you think the outcomes for tossing a cup appear to be equally likely? Do some predictions, testing, and see if you can come up with a reason or some thoughts around whether this is all the options, open and up, open and down, and on its side are equally likely, or if you think there are some that happen more frequently. All right, your assignment for today is to do the Big Ideas lesson 10.3. For questions 35 and 36, you're going to have to do some simple interest calculations. You should have this formula shown below in your math notebook. It was lesson 6.7, so chapter 6, lesson 7. But if not, you want to make sure you're writing down this interest formula. To get simple interest, we take the principal, the amount that you are borrowing, times the annual interest rate. We use a decimal when we use that, and then the time in years. Have a great day.